Welcome everyone to Centerville City Council being held here on January 3rd, 2025 at Centerville City Hall. As most our sessions, we've had a nice work session beforehand. This time with representatives from Weaver Basin Water, and we had a nice discussion on conservation and supply of water within our city and our area. So we're starting just a couple minutes late, but we welcome the public that's here, both in person and that may be joining by Zoom or YouTube. We welcome staff that is here, and thanks for everybody's efforts in getting this meeting put together. Let's do a roll call vote to make sure that we can conduct business tonight.
Meekum present.
Summer Hayes present.
Amen present. Hurst present.
Plummer present.
Thank you, all 5 council members, for being here. We look forward to what we have to discuss tonight. We have a number of public hearing matters, and so a lot of chance for the public to input on the items on the agenda tonight. So let's go to our legislative prayer or thought from Councilwoman Shaylin Heyman.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's June. I love June. I absolutely love June. It's one of my absolute favorite months. So when I was a kid, I really liked June because it was the beginning of school break, right? I didn't have to do school anymore. As an adult, I love it because it's the beginning of summer. Everything is coming into bloom. It's not too hot yet to be miserable. To me, it's like it's the perfect month. One of the other reasons that I absolutely love June is because the beginning of every month, I have volunteers from Project Rainbow who come and put a rainbow pride flag in my yard. So every day I get to look out my window in June and I get to see my lovely rainbow pride flag. Now, I know in prior years Utah has recognized June as Pride Month. Apparently Utah is not doing that this year, but June is still Pride Month in my book. And so I just want to take a moment to celebrate that. In my view, Pride is about celebrating visibility, acceptance, and dignity for our LGBTQ residents, friends, and neighbors. When we support Pride, we're showing up for love and for equity and for safety. And I love putting up my Pride flag at city councils, and I'm proud to display my Pride flag this month and every month. But I also just want to take a minute and celebrate that June is also Pride Month, and that also makes me happy about June. I know we have a very long agenda, so that's it. I tried to keep it short for y'all.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to ask Council Member Hurst to lead us on our Pledge of Allegiance. I have missed a couple of chances to give a prayer or thought, so I'm going to also offer a prayer before our meeting starts to both of us. Our Father in heaven, we're very grateful for the opportunity that we have to be here this night. We're thankful for the public that gets involved and comes to these meetings. We're mindful that it is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that we represent the people. Help us to remember that this night as we go about the city of Centerville's business, that we may be able to be mindful of our responsibility to our residents, and that we may be respectful towards each other and with each other. We're grateful for all the hard work that goes in by our staff and by all those that work to keep this great city going, so we have the basic necessities of life. Help us that we may be able to have thy spirit with us, so we may be guided in our footsteps of the directions we may take. And this we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Councilwoman Hurst.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first thing is the open session. This is an opportunity where members of the public have to input to things that might be on their mind. We ask you to keep your comments to no more than 2 to 3 minutes. Just identify who you are and where you're from. Now, I want you to also know, like I said, we have a number of public hearing matters. So if you're gonna talk about these items, you don't need to come up for the open session because we'll be discussing these individually. The Moss property zoning map amendment, the employee compensation schedule, the executive municipal officers compensation, the judges court, judge compensation, and the final fiscal year 2026 final budget. Those are all public hearings that we'll discuss more in detail that you don't have to come up and talk about right now on the open session because you'll have your opportunity there. But outside of those, that open session is now available to the public.
Mayor, really quick, just one note, the Justice Court judge compensation is not a public hearing.
All right, so if you want to talk about that, you can. Yes, it's not, sorry.
Okay.
So that's open.
Nobody is running forward to talk about the Justice Court.
Seeing, oh, do we have comment? Okay.
Is it about Justice Court?
Coming
compensation?
before you as a regular guy with a regular job. Today, staff, mayor, council, my name is Brian Plummer from Centerville. And I'm not going to lie, after the last council session, as you all know, I don't support the current budget as we have it. I went home and I thought about that meeting for about 2 hours after we had met. So tonight, I want to speak candidly, not just as a council member, but as someone raised in Centerville who deeply values what this city has stood for. We're at a turning point here in our city. Our budget isn't just about numbers on paper. It's a reflection of our values. And I'm concerned that we're starting to lose touch with what matters to the people who actually live here. Lobbyists, expensive software systems, administrative growth. These things may have their place, but they cannot come at the cost of our community identity. If we're going to operate like a big city with representation in DC and Salt Lake, then let's look and act like it. That means visible, meaningful investments, not just consultants and reports. So let's fully fund things our residents care about. A second set of lights and new scoreboards for our baseball fields? A scoreboard for the soccer field? Let's give $10,000 to the Bountiful Davis Art Center to support cultural life for our residents. How about a compensation package for our city employees that reflects fairness and loyalty? 2.5 COLA, 2.5 merit increase, on par with our neighbor Farmington. We're not broke, and therefore these proposals will not require a tax increase. We have millions in reserves, and roughly $4 million of that came from federal COVID relief funds. That money was meant to help communities recover. Let's use it for what it was intended, for real projects that improve quality of life and make Centerville a stronger, more connected city. I'm not anti-growth. I'm pro-balance. Let's allow smart development on the west side, but let's fiercely protect the neighborhoods east of I-15 that give Centerville its soul. We owe it to our residents to be honest about the direction we're heading. If we're becoming a city with lobbyists and regional clout, at least invest in a community we can be proud of, one that honors its past and prepares for its future. Before I close, I want to express my respect for Mayor Wilkinson. I appreciate that prayer that she gave. I believe in that. And I really appreciate the time you spent in Washington, D.C. And I appreciate your service for your efforts to build relationships on behalf of Centerville. But I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge a deeper concern I share with many of our residents. Washington is not a model of fiscal discipline. Talk about short-sighted as they spend us into oblivion. The federal government is trillions of dollars in debt, And that kind of unchecked spending we see there should not be something we emulate or praise here at home. Our pride in this country should come from not what Congress appropriates, but from the freedoms we protect, the communities we build, and the local decisions we make with accountability and restraint. That's what makes us patriotic, not spending someone else's money, but honoring the fiscal responsibility we have for those we serve.
Thank you. Any other open session comment? All right, seeing nothing else, let's go on to our business items. The first item is a public hearing matter. It's on a zoning map amendment on the Moss property at 2041 North Main Street. And who's our presentation on this? Sydney, is it you? Okay, so we, as Sydney comes up, we'll look forward to hearing her staff report on this one.
Thanks, City Council. Here tonight we have Clark Scott and a gentleman I have not met before. So thank you guys for coming. They're the applicants and the owners of the property that is having the application for the zoning map amendment. The address is 2041 North Main Street. The lot is a total of 0.72 acres. Currently, it has a single-family home on it with a large shed. The applicant has plans to split the lot into two separate parcels, roughly about Lot 1 being about 14,000 square feet and Lot 2 being about 15,000 square feet. That is something that they have proposed and they've provided in the packet to the Planning Commission as well as y'all. The rezone needs to occur first before they do the subdivision, just due to the lot limitations that is for the agriculture low zone that needs to have a 0.5 acreage for agriculture zones, and obviously that does not permit for that for what they want to do with the subdivision. So as indicated in the packet, the surrounding use is very similar to the proposed single-family home that they are proposing to do with the subdivision. The Planning Commission has recently reviewed this application and moved to recommend the approval. Due to the surrounding use and the alignment with little to no impact expected and no comments from the public that has been given, staff is also in support of this rezone. I like to keep it short and simple and hope that you guys read my staff reports that I put effort in.
So she's by Sydney saying that, she's now open for questions,
Yes.
if any.
Sydney, I have an off-topic question.
Go for
But
it.
it relates to something that you've included in your report. And I don't mean to derail anything if anybody has any questions about this particular application. I've noticed recently that it feels like the Planning Commission recommendations that we're receiving are often 4-0 votes with 3 people being absent. Like, it feels like to me that we're not having full Planning Commission participation. And I'm just wondering, am I like off base? Am I wrong? I admit I didn't go back and like tally them up, but this was another one on the report where I thought, oh, we just barely squeaked through a recommendation again. And I'm just wondering, is there something we can do to, number one, am I wrong? And number 2, have you thought about, is there something we can do to get more Planning Commission participation? And by the way, Planning Commissioners who may be listening to this is so not a knock on you. I'm just wondering if there is some issue that we can address.
So the Planning Commission members that do attend have a lot of insight, and I really, really respect them, just as I assume that you do as well. So sometimes when I think about, it's about the quality versus the quantity, right? And while it would be amazing to have all of the planning commissioners be in attendance, you are not wrong where there are times where we send out an email, by we, I mean Mike, sends out an email asking, is everybody going to be in attendance? And within 2 to 24 hours, we get 3 of them saying, can't attend, something happened. There is a there is always incentives that can be added to have people come and attend the planning commission meeting. I don't know what that necessarily is, but I can definitely ask them and report back to you.
Like I said, this was totally off topic, and like, we have 3 people sitting up on this bench who are all former planning commissioners, and I get, like, there's a lot of things that happen. It's just, I've just noticed that a little bit lately, and again, not a knock on our planning commissioner. I was wondering, I was talking to somebody who is now a Farmington city council member, who used to serve on the planning commission back in the 90s. And he said they got $25 a meeting, and I think our planning commissioners now get, what, 35? And that's a 25-year span. And I didn't know if it's, people are feeling like it's a compensation issue or something else. I just, as the city council, I really appreciate when the planning commission looks at this stuff and gives us their recommendations. I always look to the planning commission's recommendation on these matters, and it's just, anyway, that for what it's worth. Anecdotally, I was just wondering if maybe there was something we as a city council can do if that is an issue. And if it's not an issue, then you just ignore everything that I just said.
So I will take this up with Sydney and with Mike and with Lisa time to time while I've been mayor. We've had discussions about how planning commission is functioning and who may be attending and who's not participatory. So that's I think probably the direction that we should go with it, because I don't know that it's a matter of compensation or not compensation. It's just fitting it in people's lives and what they have going on, their activities that night. So, you know.
I do, Shaylin, I've noticed the same thing, and I've been concerned about it as well. And I don't know if it's compensation or not. As a planning commissioner, you know, from 2013 to 2018, I had a lot of small kids at home, and sometimes that meant, I've talked about this before, it didn't track well with the council, but I did say, hey, at least I could cover, you know, fast food for the night for my family if I didn't have time to get that done before I was, you know, trying to finalize.
To cover fast food.
It doesn't cover it now, that's my point, is I'm like, so I was using my $35 check a lot of times just to cover, sometimes I was covering a babysitter, sometimes I was covering some fast food. It wasn't that I was coming here and thinking I was getting, I wasn't coming because of the check, but it certainly did help in helping me to balance my family life. But I agree with you. I don't know what has changed, but it doesn't seem like, I mean, I'm worried about it as well. I really do appreciate the vote of 7 people, you know, and occasionally we're not going to get all 7, but it would be nice to know and see that, because we really do depend on them to give us feedback for critical issues.
Yes.
Like this land use thing is a big deal.
So I will do that. You guys, staff hold me to that, but in fairness to the Mosses, let's get back onto their
Yeah.
issue as well
Yes.
too. So, but no questions on this top. So with that said, this is a public hearing matter, but before we go to public hearing, the applicant is allowed to make comments as well too, if you would like to, before we go to public hearing. Just identify who you are and where you're from.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Clark Moss. My wife and I reside in Fruit Heights. My son actually is with me, Scott Moss, and he lives next door to us. It's fun to come and see a council that can laugh and smile at each other, even though it's stressful. And it's really good to see that. And I really want to thank the planning staff here in Centerville. They were so friendly and helpful in this process. This piece of property came up, and it's dear to us. I grew up in the house at 2041. And the first thing we wanted to make sure is we didn't know what zone it was. And my wife and I were flying out of town, and we decided we better put an offer on it because we didn't want high density all the way around the house. So we bought it, We would like to split it into 2 lots. We were very thankful when we looked at the city plan and it was large residential there because that fit in with our plan. So we would like to split it in 2 lots. That's right now, the back of that lot behind the shed is a lot of weeds. It used to be part of our farm. Farm's pretty much gone and the tractor's gone, but we have someone in the family that would really like to have that lot and build a home and live in Centerville on Grandpa's property. The one question we have is on the agenda, it said you'd review it today, and we don't know when you will make the decision on that. So if you have any more questions for me, thank you.
Thank you, Clark. The way I read it, we are considering an ordinance amending the Centerville zoning map to rezone 0.72 acres from agricultural low to residential low, correct? So that's so that if council doesn't put it off, then it will be voted on today. But to answer that question. Okay, if there's no question for the applicant, then let's go to the public hearing portion. This is now a public hearing on a zoning map amendment on the Moss property of 2041 North Main Street from agricultural low to residential low. That public hearing is now open. If any member of the public is inclined to comment, please state your name and where you're from. Seeing no member of the public present and not getting indication that there's anybody online, I will close the public hearing on this matter, and we will come back to if there's any further questions for applicant or staff from council.
Want me to make a motion?
If not, yes, I welcome a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2025-10, amending the Centerville zoning map to rezone approximately 0.72 acres of property located at 2041 North Main Street from agricultural low zoning to residential low zoning.
I'll second that.
With, in a friendly amendment, findings 1 through 3.
Oh, yes. Yes, I accept that amendment from Spencer.
We still have a
Second.
second on that? Okay. Further discussion? Let's start with the vote with the Councilman Summerhays going to the right.
Aye.
I will say, when you get no questions, Sydney, it was a great report. Aye.
Yes. Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, the Moss family, for being here. And let's go to our next item. This is a public hearing on the employee compensation schedule. This is required to do. This is ordinance number 2025-11, and Nate Pizzera, Finance Director, will add to what you have in your packet.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Mayor mentioned, before you tonight is the ordinance to update and adopt the Centerville Employee Compensation Schedule. So each year, as we update our compensation, we bring this before you. As you can see, attached to your packet is the employee compensation schedule for the fiscal year 26. Now, this does reflect a 2.5% market adjustment, which is equal to our COLA. The way we calculate this is by taking the fiscal year 25 numbers and adding that 2.5% to the midpoint, and then the minimum and maximum are calculated based off that midpoint. The other item I wanted to note is that there's been discussion about the code enforcement officer in the budget. That is not included in this, so should that move forward, we'll bring a job description and amend this schedule at that point, but it's not included right now. I think that's all I have. We do recommend that we adopt the ordinance. Are there any questions?
Just one note if I could, Nate. Just as I've mentioned in the last meeting, this compensation schedule shifts with the COLA that we adopt, so ranges of all shift 2.5%. Again, the intent is to try and keep up so that the ranges don't fall behind. But anyway, that's really the only changes to the values, right, Nate?
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify that. There it is right there.
When you say that you increase the midpoint by 2.5% and then adjust the low and the high, are you just saying we're increasing it by the same dollar amount?
Yeah.
Sounds different than I'm bumping everything up 2.5%.
Yeah, it works out basically that. The way this compensation schedule was set up, I think in 2017, was all the positions were listed by the midpoint. And then we took, to get the minimum, we times it by the 83.33%. So you're going essentially 17% below the midpoint. To get the maximum is 20% above the midpoint.
Okay. I get
so
what
yeah.
you're saying.
We
Yeah,
use the midpoint
thank you.
as the basis for the 2.5%.
Yes, yeah, that's where you start and then you adjust, yeah, okay.
Other compensation, Nate, or compensation?
So
Questions? Go ahead,
you
Brian.
clarified something, but I just want to clarify. This is assuming that 2.5% COLA in the budget, the tentative budget, is passed.
The
and that
final budget.
The final budget is passed. And that's what this is based upon. Correct. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some cities don't even increase this at all, right? So some don't even actually touch the compensation schedule and move it 2.5%. Some just keep it. But you get employees who top out really quickly in the range because you're not shifting the range with the COLA. And all of a sudden you have all your employees are topped out and then they're not eligible for any increases or merit increases because of that. So the theory in this is that you shift it to allow the range to kind of move with the employee, so they don't top out. And you're keeping up with the 60 percentile in the market.
Okay. There's no applicant on this, obviously, so you'll still have, if you don't have any questions right now and something pops up, you'll have a chance after the public hearing. This is a public hearing related to the employee compensation schedule. That public hearing is now open. Once again, I just ask that you, or we ask that you give your name and where you're from for the record, if you're so inclined. So that public hearing, like I said, is now open. See nobody in person or online willing to make comments or going to make comments. I will close that public hearing and we will come back to, if in that brief quiet time, any more questions may have popped up to ask of me. There's a schedule in front of you that is in our information and other things. Anything else?
Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2025-11, updating and adopting the Centerville employee compensation schedule.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Okay, let's go with Councilwoman Hayman going to my right on the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye, and I'm grateful for our employees. I wish we could give more.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Let's go to the next public hearing matter. We planned to schedule this well so Nate didn't have to run back and forth. We have an executive municipal officers compensation, which is a public hearing matter as well too. So Nate, you want to give us a little bit more on this?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I'll do my best to explain it, so feel free to jump in at any point, Brent and Lisa, if I screw up here. But this was legislation that was passed last year in 2023, or I guess 2024. So it requires that before we hold a hearing on the final budget, we need to hold a public hearing regarding the executive municipal officer compensation increases. So in order to do this, we had to provide notice of the public hearing. The code defines the municipal executive officer to include the city manager, assistant city manager, city attorney, the head or chief of a department or division, and the assistant chief or deputy of a head or chief of a department or division. So for Centerville, those positions include the city manager, the city attorney, the police chief, the lieutenant, the administrative services director, the community development director, the finance director, parks and recreation director, the public works director, drainage supervisor, the street supervisor, and the water supervisor. Now, the interesting part about this is we just have to hold the public hearing about the increase. So the proposed increase is the 2.5% cost of living that we just discussed. And then you'll see in the background that we put a 0 to 5% discretionary merit increase. Now we've talked at length about how we handle our merit increases. The department gets the 2% that is then allocated. So recognizing that an executive officer may receive a little bit more than that 2% or a little bit less depending on their performance, we just put that range from 0 to 5 just to cover that. But we're still following that same 2% by department philosophy that we've talked about.
The process we used last year, so really we're just using the same methodology we used last year. 0 to 5%.
Correct. And just to note that the merit increase for the city manager is determined by the mayor. The merit increase for department heads is determined by the city manager. And for the assistant department heads or deputies or the supervisors, that's determined by their department head. So again, we're required to hold a public hearing on this. The interesting part is no motion or anything to decide is required. We did have a motion last year to accept it, but it's not required. All that is required is that we hold the public hearing. Any questions?
So we're going to look to get a input from the public, but we're not voting on anything,
Correct.
right?
Essentially, you vote on it when you approve the budget or when you vote on the budget.
Yeah, it makes sense. No questions. You guys okay if I go to public hearing? Okay, we'll go to the public hearing for the executive municipal officers compensation. That is now open. Once again, if you're inclined to comment, just state your name and where you're from. Seeing nobody in person or online, I will close that public hearing, and we will come back if there's any last-minute questions. Like I said, we're not voting on this. It's part of the budget, as our city manager, Brent, said. But any other questions for Nate before we move off of this one?
Did we say,
Lisa Brandt, was there anything?
did we say Deputy Public Works Director in that list?
I meant to if I didn't.
He feels left out, so we better make sure that that's included as well.
Yeah, it does say, or deputy.
I don't see the badge, the star on you, buddy.
I think we've broadly included that because it does say departments or divisions, and we do actually, in the public works, we have the streets, drainage and water. So we've included those as well.
Okay.
And in the first paragraph, that second to last sentence, and the assistant chief or deputy of a head or chief, so.
Yes, so we do the lieutenant.
Okay, sorry, just want to make sure that's on the record.
Thank you.
My apologies.
For
We're gonna hold a hearing.
bringing that up. Okay. Then no other questions on that. Let's go to item number 4. This is not a public hearing matter. Thank you, Jennifer. But this is the Justice Court judge compensation, and once again, Nate, your name's on it.
All right. So I'll attempt to explain the way the justice court judge's salary works. So each year, the legislature sets the range, the state legislature sets the range for a full-time justice court judge, sets the salary range. From there, the administrative office of the courts looks at the city's workload, because we have a part-time justice court judge. And so we look at the workload compared to that of a full-time justice court judge. And they have deemed that we have 31% of the workload of a full-time justice court judge. So from there, they set the salary range for the part-time judge at 31% of that of a full-time. So you'll see there in the packet that the range for a part-time judge is set at $47,577 to $61,170. Now there are a few, state code has a few rules that govern the judge's salary. One of those is that he needs to receive an amount equal to or greater than the average pay increase for all city employees. So that would be the 2.5 COLA plus the 2% merit. And then on top of that, despite the fluctuations in the workload, the state constitution doesn't allow the judge's salary to ever be reduced during his or her term in office. So looking at that, if we were to give the judge the 2.5 plus the 2%, which is the average for all employees, that would put him above the allowed salary range. So it is staff's recommendation that we give the judge the salary at the top of his range, which is the $61,170.75 for the year. And just to note, the last couple, at least last year and maybe before that, his range, or his actual salary was above the range, so he has been held steady for at least a year because he was above that range and we can't reduce his salary. But now he has room for a little bit of extra pay. But we'll just top him out at the top of the range. So again, staff recommends that you adopt the resolution fixing the compensation of the Municipal Justice Court Judge of the Centerville City Justice Court. Any questions?
Translation, state law requires us to pay the guy this much. Stop.
Correct.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, we don't have any leeway,
Yep,
Yeah.
nope, that's the way I see it.
so,
And by the way, that wasn't a dig at all on our justice
No.
court judge. It was funny. It was like, we recommend, and I was thinking, no, state law requires us.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So-
it's not a
to
recommendation.
dig on your profession, right?
That's darn straight. We'll take it, man. You can always dig lawyers.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2025-07, fixing the compensation for the Municipal Justice Court Judge of the Centerville City Justice Court.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, further discussion? I see no further discussion. Let's do a roll call vote, starting on my right with Councilwoman Hurst.
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Thank you, Nate. Hey, did you stay up late last night?
I sure did.
Yeah, you just had a lot of preparation, huh? All right, so we got the public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 final budget. Anyway, we've, as we're all very well aware, this budget process started in early January with Brant and Nate getting department heads to submit information. Brant and Nate then worked on it hard to bring to us a budget, which we did on a council retreat on 2 long nights with the budget. And then we've had a couple of council meetings where we've approved a preliminary budget. So now we get to come to the final budget. We also had some time where we could, last council meeting, discuss budget further. So before we go to the public hearing, wrap up for us what you have in here, Nate.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to note a couple things that, first, we are required to adopt this by June 30th per state law. The presented budget is a balanced budget. is also is required by state law. As Mayor mentioned, on May 6th, we held the public hearing on the tentative budget, and that was adopted. Since then, it's been open to the public for review. But since that date, we've had a few changes to the budget that I'd like to go over with you. The first one is regarding property taxes. So you'll note that on the property tax line, I increased that to $2,311,420. So I'll give you the backstory on this. The county assessor's office is required, I think it's May 22nd, they're required to give it to the county auditor for review. The county auditor notified us last Thursday that she had entered the revenue figures on the website. So that's where I got this increased number. This is a preliminary number because it still goes to the state for review. And I will also note that on Friday, that number changed fairly significantly, increased significantly. Yesterday and today it has dropped back down, but so right now the website's showing $2,349,000. So I'm not sure if that $2,311,000 will stick. That's just kind of the preliminary number that was given to us.
So the number updated was 2349? So even higher?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Again, because of when I looked on Friday, it had increased another $385,000, which seemed very high, but thought maybe with some of the commercial growth we'd had, maybe it made sense, but then on Monday it had dropped back down again. So anyway, right now it's under review by the State Tax Commission. They're required to give us the final numbers and the tax rate on June 8th. So point of all that being, this is just a placeholder. I don't know where it's actually going to be, but I was told this could give us a decent idea. So that's why I increased it. In the mayor and council budget, as we discussed the last meeting, I've increased the contribution line to $3,000 for the Bountiful Davis Arts Center. In the admin budget, we decreased the training and education to $25,000. And depending on which version of the packet you're looking at, I may have typoed that, but in the budget it is $25,000. And then the marketing, we also decreased down to $27,000, as we discussed last meeting as well. In the streets department on page 32, this was my error. I noticed in reviewing the budget that for the tentative budget, I put 0 on their insurance line, which was a mistake by me. So I added back in that $7,292 that was in that line. The capital projects fund, the first item there is that with the other changes in the general fund, it allowed us to increase that transfer to the capital projects fund to $261,784, which then decreased the needed use of fund balance to $1,114,325. And then the final change was in the drainage fund. We talked about this the night of the tentative budget, that their contract maintenance, based on the recent bids that they received, needed to increase to $225,000. So those are all the changes that have been implemented since the tentative budget. While staff's recommendation is to approve the resolution adopting the budget, we recognize that we don't have the property tax numbers finalized yet. And historically, council is elected to table the vote to the second meeting. So do with that what you will. But yeah, are there any questions?
Because our date is June 30th, that we have to approve the final budget by.
Correct.
Okay. Questions before I go to the public hearing on this one, council? All right, let's go to the public hearing regarding the fiscal year 2026 final budget. That public hearing is now open. Just state where you're from and your name. Did I have a question, Jennifer? Okay. Seeing and hearing no comments, I will close the public hearing on the fiscal year 2026 final budget, and I do have a question for you, Nate. In that 4 weeks since we've approved the tentative budget, have we had any public comment coming in?
I have not
At
received,
all.
I haven't received any.
Does any other staff receive any public comment at all? Okay. I just, it just would help council if they knew if there was any of the public that had commented during that time, so. Other questions for Nate? Okay, so council, if none, you do have a resolution in front of you. As Nate mentioned, sometimes this, every time, I think this has been delayed, but it's there if, a motion to decide what you want to do with this, resolution that's in front of you.
Typically, we do open this public hearing and then table it until the next meeting in June, correct?
That's what Nate was saying.
Yeah.
And that would give us time to get the updated property tax information.
Yeah.
And it gives the
That's a
public
big
one
reason
more
why.
opportunity.
One more
That's kind of
opportunity.
been our approach is, hey, we're going to give you as many opportunities until our statutory door closes, and so I'd
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
find tabling it as well.
Sorry, Nate, you did say that. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
Times, it goes, it just flies through. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll have our property tax done.
No, it's okay.
I may have said it that way. I didn't mean to say it that way.
Oh, no, no, no. I was not offended or anything.
Okay.
Would it be all right if I would like to ask Brian for a couple of clarifying points. You're unhappy with the budget. I hope I did not miss this, but I just need you to clarify. So you want a 2.5% COLA and a 2.5% merit, which is higher,
Correct?
okay? And I don't know what the comments about Washington DC were. We do live with a balanced budget, so,
Correct, and it was more probably me writing at the moment when he came back and was talking about some of the things that he had, that the mayor had experienced out in Washington. What I'm really getting at is, we have a budget, and I'm not going to be able to convince anybody to change things that I would like to see removed, which are lobbyists and the new position for the code enforcer. So if we're going to do things that are big city type of projects or expenditures, then let's do big city things and let's fund our park with some scoreboards. Let's give the staff the same COLA and merit pay that our neighbor is, so that we're not competing with trying to keep our staff here. And let's look at let's not be cheap, and let's give the $10,000 that was requested for culture at the Bountiful Arts Center. Let's not be that city that does one thing with spending our money on consultants and lobbyists and not giving the people tangible things that they can enjoy here in our city. That's what I'm saying.
so I hear what you're saying, and I'm just, I guess my comment as far as, I do think we have to balance a little bit some of the wants, for sure. And we do, like the park stuff, I don't think we haven't given them we've had incredible amounts of pressure to put pickleball courts in and a new playground, and we did that. And hey, the scoreboards might be coming. We just have to, but I do think it's what you said earlier about balance. Can we talk about the lobbyists for a second?
We have money in the general fund from COVID that was meant for recovering from COVID. And we need to use that and have those tangible things put in place so that our people here that pay taxes here can enjoy the community and can go to the Bountiful Arts Center, that can go down to the baseball park and play baseball and actually see what the score is when we're playing instead of wondering what the score is, and comparing our field to the Farmington field, which is 100 times better. Those are things that people that are those are the things that are tangible that we need to have if we're going to invest in these other things that I feel are, quite frankly, they're just expenditures. We're perpetuating a problem in Washington, D.C. by hiring a lobbyist. And you can try to talk to me about a lobbyist, but I doubt you're going to change my mind. So let's pay for the lobbyist, but let's also pay for scoreboards.
Okay, so, and I'm assuming you're saying, hey, we have a lot of money, like we have some reserves, right?
Correct.
Here's my concern about just saying, well, we've got the reserves, and so I get what you're saying. I'm not, but I guess my concern about that is, yes, we do have the reserves. The reserves are about a third of our annual total budget. And so for me, that's an emergency savings account. It's not by any means, it seems like a lot of money because it's not like our individual budgets for our homes, right? It's for an entire city. But 3 to 4 months of emergency fund for me is, I think we should at least be there. And applause and kudos to staff. And yes, we did get a bump from the COVID funds to help with that. But I think we need that because at the end of the day, one of the most important things that we provide to our residents, besides the wants, is drinking water, police force that keep us safe, streets, and all of these things, drainage to prevent flooding. A couple of years ago, we had that concern that we may have some flooding similar to 83. The snowpack on the mountain was reacting similarly in amount and type of potential runoff. Thankfully, it did come down slowly, but some of that was also an appropriate drainage system that we didn't have in 1983. And for me, those are the things that we ultimately have to supply, but I think we have to have, I think we owe it. As a resident myself, if I were to respond to that, I would be saying, at the end of the day, need water, streets, drainage, police force.
You have all those.
Right, but we have to also have the budget in case our sales tax goes south, which as you can see from, Nate hasn't gotten to it yet, but if you look, we're dropping a little on some of our income from franchise tax and sales tax. And so I'm saying, I don't know that I think we have to be very careful with that reserve. That's important in case we do have a catastrophic event or something where we do need some extra funding. We have to be careful about balancing that because we're asking residents to continue to pay property taxes and sales tax and other things. But at the end of the day, it is important to me as a city council member to make sure that we provide to our residents safety and security, which is somewhat of an emergency fund to keep paying for the things that this city provides. I don't need you to agree with me, I'm just
I
telling
hear
you
what you're saying.
I'm just giving
hear
you a
what you're
little bit of
saying.
my feeling on it.
I just want to make 2 comments. Number one, as in keeping with my policy, is as Brian Plummer, the resident, was talking, I usually don't comment on the opening messages because I don't want to get into a topic that hasn't been agendized. But I do want, and by no means, Councilman Plummer, do I think you were inferring this. I do want it to be known out there that I was not in DC on the city's dollar, okay? I was there on my own dollar and the UACPA's dollar, and if anything, I shorted the UACPA a little bit when they started asking me about city things, and I do say to them, well, I'm here as a CPA on this trip, okay? And all that I do on my own dollar as well too. I'm not compensated by the USCPA. I'm not compensated by the city. I do all that to establishing relationships on
And I apologize if
on
I
my own
inferred
dollar.
that.
Okay, so I don't. And I think you know that, but I don't want people looking back at this thinking that the city was paying me to do that. They weren't. I'm establishing those relationships because, yes, I'm passionate about it, and number two, it benefits the city. So, and then the second thing is the comments, since you brought it up, Councilwoman Hurst, about needing a scoreboard. It's a legitimate cause, but as I brought up last time, if we get this RAP tax on the ballot, and you want it's recreation, arts, and parks. If you want to change the allocation of that RAP tax, and you want to build into the RAP tax some things for scoreboards, I mean, go at it, you know? I mean, that's a passionate cause, and to some people, including myself, I love baseball. That's as important as pickleball courts. But we try and do things of what the public wants, and I know with something like the pickleball courts is, you remember the crowd we had in here on pickleball
Yes.
courts, and what we went through, where it was going to be, and then how it was going to be funded, and ultimately, what we heard was, we just want pickleball courts.
Right.
Didn't we? And so we heard from the public, and I hope that we, and that's why tonight I was making sure no additional comments from 2 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago. We're keeping it open for the public to respond. I mean, it's not a perfect budget. No budget is perfect. It's, there's some things in it that I don't like, and I bet every one of us has that. So, but there's things that we just continue to work on, you know, so that's my comment on the matter. Did you have other questions?
No.
Did Councilman Plummer clarify?
I'm trying, I mean, I guess I'm trying to find, like, if there's any potential middle ground. I can totally appreciate what you're saying about the lobbyist. That said, they have helped us secure grant money that is not, we're not abusing that. I can't change what Washington is doing, but they are offering those funds for projects that we chased and qualified for. And frankly, it saved us, you know, in the case of the water tank, $1.5 million, which is, what is that, just on average per resident? I mean, I just think we are chasing some additional funds from them right now, and those funds are, you know, that's still available. Okay, I'm assuming 6,000 houses, about $250 per resident.
It represents 65% of our property tax base.
Yeah.
So when I think about a lobbyist, in this specific case, there is nothing more that you can touch and feel, Brian, than a green tank project that provides us drinking water. So when you talk about we want to invest in things that we can touch and feel, we've talked about water as our most precious resource. We're using that funds for that. And when we're paying a total cost of $307,000 and $395 to get back $1.57 million, I think the public here would say that's a fantastic way to use our tax dollars.
And when
Because on the
you,
flip side, if you don't do that, what you're telling, and Mayor made this point a month ago, is that if you don't engage the services of that lobbyist, you are effectively requesting the differential amount, which would be at that point $1.2 million in property tax increase for a new tank project.
Well, and probably more likely it would be an increase in the water fee, and it would be some kind of loan, right? Because it should be coming out of that enterprise fund.
We would have to pay for it regardless.
Right, but that tank is in disrepair and leaking and overdue to be replaced, and so, you know, in this case,
I think we would be remiss not to have engaged a lobbyist to help us do that, in addition to the grants that they outlined, that they're trying to chase for us that are extremely large projects that require, in many cases, funds, matching funds at some level, which we will have to use our reserves for.
And I will say on some of the ones that we are chasing, I don't think you would see the ability for the city to support something like an aquifer storage recovery project. But what an incredible benefit that could be to our well system and our drinking water, but not something that I see ever politically gaining enough traction to actually fund. And so that to me could be a huge benefit and a huge investment in the future of this community as far as providing drinking water.
Why couldn't we fund it?
I just don't, I think politically it would be hard to get that funded.
Yes, it would.
Would you support it?
I'm agreeing with you.
Just on the off chance that
It would be
it's-
politically difficult, but yet we will go behind what they would want on the local level and say, can we get it from the federal level? And that, to me, is
But
just, we're doing
Brian,
the same thing.
But our individual residents are paying tons of taxes into the federal level, and with that comes some of these opportunities. And they are opportunities to go out and get some additional help with a project that would be expensive to fund and absolutely is an investment in our future community.
So gambling is an investment.
It's not gambling.
So we discussed this
No.
particular thing with the lobbyists, I think, at every single budget meeting now.
Right, so I've
I
decided
don't
I'm
know
not gonna change.
how much more we can
Exactly, so I
discuss on
say,
this.
then let's,
One thing I do agree with is, yes, the federal government is trillions of dollars in a deficit. No, they shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. But as Congressman Stewart said, who's very conservative, as Congressman Kennedy is more conservative than Congressman Stewart is, and even he himself said to me, yes, these are still going to come.
That's crazy.
And as long as they're there, then change it on the federal level. As long as they're there, we're going to go for it for our residents rather than having Oklahoma or Florida or New York or California get it, because that money's going to go else somewhere. Okay? So why should we say to our residents, we're going to, just out of the principle here, we're going to hit you with more property tax for this drainage tank, because we don't want it, we want to help not take them to the federal government. Oh, but by the way, your 1.5 million went to Iowa to build a
To
culvert
build
system.
their water tank.
Okay, yeah, it sucks, Councilman Plummer, I agree with you, but that's how it is. So it's got to be changed on the federal level. So you got to lobby with your federal congressmen and your senators and the president and whoever you can to stop these earmarks, okay, if you don't like them. But we can't penalize ourselves and not take what's available to us.
okay, and
Just out of the
I
principle.
actually agree with that. I'm not going to change your guys' mind. So let's raise the merit pay to 2.5, let's get the scoreboards, and let's move forward. And let's not be a cheap city where we're not doing what our neighbors are doing with their staff, and let's pay for scoreboards, and let's give $10,000 to the Bountiful Culture Center, or Bountiful Arts Center.
But in what I hear you're saying, we're increasing the amount of compensation, right? And we're also increasing the budget with.
Which is what those COVID funds were meant for.
With scoreboards.
Which was what those COVID funds were meant for.
They were meant for scoreboards?
They were meant for recovering from COVID, and we've determined that COVID destroyed communities. And so let's bring something back to the community. And there's nothing better than arts and baseball to bring the community together.
Well, and like I say, you heard me say that supporting the arts, supporting athletics, it's important.
But it
It's
is
important.
So
And-
let's do it like we can, because we
But
afford lobbyists.
at this late point in the game,
Oh,
I don't know why.
That's why we shouldn't have started so late.
Why
Getting
was it?
that tentative budget, I knew it wasn't gonna change.
No, at this point in the game, you can, but you gotta get a council that's ready to change.
Exactly.
All of a sudden adding money to scoreboards.
If you, I do agree
We
with the
started
mayor
this
and.
process a long time.
No, I agree with the mayor in the fact that if you wanted scoreboards this year, that probably should have been brought up a while back, not after, like, we're moving from tentative budget to final budget. That should have been brought up during budget retreat or tentative budget, not now.
And I'm looking for the public to come in and say, this is what's wrong with the budget. We want some scoreboards, or we want this eliminated. We are leaving it open for the public to come in
Let's leave it open for.
and say it. So I respect you having your own personal opinion on it, but you got to get the rest of the council to go along with you on it. You brought it up, I appreciate you bringing it up, but between now and 2 weeks when we
We didn't have
finalize
any
it.
public, that's why I went up there. So we had at least
But what
one.
what does that communicate to us? If the public is not here, what it's telling me is, and I've asked several people on some of these budget items, and to be honest with you, Brian, I think that the staff did a really good job of initially like outlining this and they've been responsive to, where we could try and cut a few things out. It's, I came in guns blazing, wanting to, not have such a big fund balance transfer out of the general fund into capital projects, but when we went through it, the projects were legitimate needs, and I think we have gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. I don't agree with you on the scoreboards this year. I'll sure back you on it, but we just covered some major park improvements, and I'm okay with what we've spent. And if you want the scoreboards, gosh, I'll back you on that. As far as the administrative staff increase, we haven't actually approved anything. We've approved the opportunity to discuss, and we've put a budget marker in place for the code enforcement officer. I don't think we're there on that one quite yet, but I think, in my mind, by leaving it there, it gives staff clear direction of what comes next in the next year. Like, they know we want to discuss that over the next year, whether or not it's gonna happen. It may not happen.
So, does anybody, right now, we're still on item number 5, looking to determine whether we're approving resolution 2025-08 or putting it off. It sounds like probably going to have a motion to put it off. For staff's direction, Councilman Plummer and all our other council people, are we giving them any direction to do anything that Councilman Plummer or any of the rest of you said to changing that final budget? Because we're going to have to approve it in our 2-week meeting unless we have a special meeting, okay? Because that'll be the 17th and it's got to be done by the 30th. So any further direction we want to give to them?
Nate, can I just ask you quickly? I can't seem to find it in my tentative budget, but the initial property taxes, what was the amount? You gave us the new amount, and I apologize, I should have looked it up before.
It was about 2.2 million.
2.2 million?
Was it 2.2 or 2.25?
Thank you.
Nate,
You're probably right. Give me a second.
sorry, 2.275.
Yep.
And some of the reason I'm asking about that is because as I'm watching our budget this year, the revenues, they are dropping. They're a little under what came in last year at this point. So I'm just trying to balance where we're at. We might be seeing a little bit of softening on revenue coming in.
Well, it sounds like we get this pickup in revenue. And I
Yeah.
appreciate what Mayor said in his late visit with us in our last meeting about the RAP tax. That was a really good perspective. And so I appreciate, I'm supportive of this budget that's been presented to us because it accounts for some growth embedded in it. And I think that kind of satisfies that little bump that I had talked about previously. So insofar as I'm concerned, I'm happy tabling this budget for the purpose of just giving the public extra time. If we've given them lots of chances, and we'll give them every chance they can, and
Agreed.
that's kind of, I like what staff's done so far.
And I echo what Spencer said. I really appreciated your comment about their app tax. I thought that that was a really,
Oh, thank you.
I thought
Yes.
that that was a really forward-thinking comment, and that definitely changed my mind on that piece, so thank you for that.
So we got a motion?
I'll make a motion that we table Resolution 2025-08, adopting the fiscal year 2026 final budget until June 17th, when we meet as a council again, in order to give the public more opportunity to comment before
Second.
we finalize.
Second.
So continuing the public hearing?
Yes.
Have second, further discussion? Councilman Plummer, you want to start our voting, going to the right?
Aye.
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 Thanks, that passes unanimously. Okay. Item number 6, water rate increase. Mike Carlson, Public Works. You discussing this or somebody else?
Just like the other way.
We're all pointing at each other.
Be the one to go off and do this.
Let's have Will do it.
I was gonna say, I thought he was pointing to Will.
We're doing the rock, paper, scissors.
He was like, wait.
With the aid of my assistant here, covered me everywhere. I guess, my bad. Any questions?
Well, you want me to read the background? Hopefully they've read it as well.
When Mike leads out like that, it feels like he's under budgeted on his timer.
Yeah, wait, I've already missed mine anyway. Basically, I did ask for 5% increase. I based that off of the increases of costs that we're seeing in the water rate bill. It was interesting, Nate sent a proposal to me of a person that may end up looking at doing our water rate increase for next year, which I really appreciated what Nate had and what that company offers, because it's a more of a scientific approach. It's something that we can look at developing. I think, for next year, that we'll have a really good number, an understanding of where our costs are going up at. They do Farmington, if I remember right, Bountiful, not Bountiful.
Farmington, Kaysville, and Murray.
Yeah, that's what he said. So, but anyway, I really liked it. It's more scientific than what I do. I just kind of look at what my costs are going up and what I'm seeing hit my field. I just personally don't like the idea of one point in time coming in and saying, I need a 35% increase. I would rather come and ask for a smaller increase each year to keep up with it. If it's 0, I'm not going to ask for anything. If it's 5% or 3%, I want to ask what it is, because I just want to keep at a level where it's a number that they can handle. The rate, I left them sitting back on my desk, but they're back here. But the rate increase that we're looking for was, you have that there, Nate?
You want the schedule?
Yeah, whatever you can help me out with, I'd really appreciate. So it'd be going up to $39.60 for the base rate. And then from 0 to 5, it would be $1.68. And then for 5,000 to 10,000, $2.30. And then $3 a gallon over 10,000. So to me, I've been looking at a lot of water rates and stuff. A lot of cities don't, that's due to try to take water conservation in mind. It's trying to get the people to conserve water, and that's why you go in increments. The state recommended that back, probably 10 or 15 years ago. We kind of adopted it and moved forward with it. So it's kind of, the base rate takes care of the basics, and then the water use is for what they use, so.
Mike, is the last one's really $3 a gallon?
Per 1,000
Per
gallons.
Oh, per
1,000.
1,000 gallons.
Yes. Well, it's over,
Okay.
it's over
I just
10,000
was-
gallons,
Tell
you
you
get
what.
$3.
Yeah, I'm thinking, woo,
Outdoor watering
you've got
is
to
getting
leak, you're in
costly.
trouble.
We're really trying to encourage conservation.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was kind of interesting. Hopefully Sydney won't get mad at me, but I asked her a question.
That's
When was-
0.3 of a cent per gallon.
Okay.
So I asked her, when was the last time the Public Works served you, basically, you know, and I remember getting stumped by it, sat there, I thought, I was in a class, and I'm going, when did Public Works serve me last in Kaysville? I'm sitting there, can't think of when it was, and the guy says, well, this morning when you got up and brushed your teeth, or you flushed your toilet, or you got in your car and you drove to work. Those are kind of what has been alluded to tonight. Those are the basic things that people rely on us on. If there's a water leak in the middle of the night, they expect in the morning to have the water back on ASAP and not to be inconvenienced. And that's kind of how we do it. We have to keep the funds coming in and be able to provide the services that we have. And, you know, I'm really proud of my team with Dave and Mark and Steve Hunt. We took that 340 project, we went in, had some time that we could allocate, and our guys put in a water line in between 7th North and London Road on 340 East Pheasant Way. So, you know, it saved the city a lot of money, but it also gave us an opportunity to train our guys. Well, you know, obviously, we would have paid a contractor labor and everything else would have cost us a lot more, but maybe I'm rambling now. Dave, you have any questions for me?
So I just want to make sure that what we have here in our background, that with both of you, that this is in our budget. There's expected increase of $178,000 water operations expenditures alone, and that in the budget, we budgeted for potentially a 5% rate increase for culinary water as well too for the 196.5.
Correct.
In the revenue portion of the budget. Just so that's clear out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I promised Brian some information regarding water affordability.
Okay.
So I did my checking. The Division of Water Resources for the state of Utah views that affordable water rates are about 1.4% of the modified adjusted gross income. So in the most recent modified adjusted gross income numbers that the state has at the moment are from 2022. That amount for Centerville is $73,000 annually. If you take that and multiply it by 1.4%, you get about $86-ish a month for water. I took Mike's increased rate of $39.60 and I added 8,000 gallons. You don't, for the base rate, you don't get actually any water, which is a very smart way to do the inclining block rate structure. So I added about $15 for 8,000 gallons to the 39. And then I took my water bill for my secondary water, which was $385. I feel like I have a pretty average lot size in Centerville, a little under a quarter acre. That's about $86.68. It's around $85 for affordability, but remember this is 2022 numbers and it's 2025. So I really do feel like, besides the fact that the way that Mike is doing this makes a lot of sense as far as keeping up with our capital facilities plan, we are also keeping pace with affordability as the state defines it for Centerville.
I thank you for that information. That's very, actually, good information. My thought would be, and I appreciate what Mike has put together here as well, I know that we do not have to have a public hearing for a fee increase, but would it not be something that we could put on the next council meeting where this could be part of that? Where we could have if public wants to have input, after the situation that we had with the last fee that increased without public comment, would it not be more transparent, more open for the government to allow that at least as an option for any public comments to be made on this particular increase? And that's just a question I'm posing out there. If nobody agrees and they want to just pass this tonight, I'm sure it would get passed, but I would not support it without some sort of public input.
Well, Councilman Plummer, I hear what you're saying, and it actually makes me think if this is built into the budget,
I'll make a
should we be approving it tonight before we approve the final budget? Because we'd be approving this, and it's already built into the budget, but we haven't approved the budget yet. Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me, and with what Ryan just said, I agree to put that down for 2 more weeks before we approve it. I don't know that we need to have a separate public hearing because it is part of the budget public hearing. But that would be something that if somebody had something they wanted to say about it, they would come and talk to us. So I feel like next time is a public hearing on that. So I wouldn't want to approve it tonight and then have people come next time and complain about that part of the budget.
I agree, and I think as council members, we do understand, oh, this is part of the budget, and they can obviously account for that, but yes, we were definitely criticized for that last year with the drainage increase, and so, Lisa, is there, I mean, does it hurt to, we just had several public hearings on employees' compensation and municipal, and maybe not the court, the judge, but I'm just saying, I mean, does it hurt to just say, let's be that transparent? I don't have a problem with.
I'm okay with that. I mean, like I said, I think it should be part of the budget, but
I think I
want
know what
to
Lisa's
advertise
answer's
it
gonna be.
differently.
But,
Well,
so
let's hear it.
I think, but she can correct me because she's great at voicing her unabated opinion, which is always great. But I think Lisa would say she doesn't want to restrict council to hold a public hearing if it's not required by statute. I'm supportive of, as a policy, if we want to adopt some policy or find some way to say, hey, we'd like to adopt some general policy, though we're not restricting ourselves, to say that whenever we have a fee increase, we want to present it to the public. I mean, we do present it to the public. The question is do we want it to have a public hearing?
Do
I
we
don't
want to
think we
allow
have a-
them to comment back?
Yeah, and I think all of us would be generally supportive of that, so I think it's a great question. I think Lisa's gonna say, well, if statute doesn't require it, then I don't really want you to have to do that, is my guess. I don't know.
I mean, typically, that's been my response, is if a public hearing is not required, we don't have the public hearing, because then we're setting a precedent and an expectation from the public that, hey, we're going to have a public hearing every time we increase a rate or a fee, or, and then it's frustrating to them that we don't. But there's pros and cons, because yes, we've had some issues where people said we didn't know. But when the statute doesn't designate a public hearing, then it also doesn't designate the type of notice that we give. And now you're looking into, okay, well, what kind of notice do we want to give? So you could certainly talk about that, but I do think it sets a
But we could set
precedent, but you could
policy
table
that-
it.
We could set a policy that says, hey, we're gonna do public hearings, though not required by statute, for fee increases, and we will follow X public hearing notice requirements
Protocol.
for those.
Can I ask this question? Doesn't it blur the lines of a tax and a fee when you start doing that? Because a fee, you're usually charging, a lot of time there's user fees. You're charging the fee because they're using the water. If they don't use the water, they're not getting a fee, okay?
What
And-
kind of they are, because they are getting charged the base rate no matter
Where,
what.
so whereas, and do you set a dollar limit on it? Because do we really want to get to the point that the fee to play baseball, since we talked baseball tonight, has gone up from $45 to $50 and we do a public hearing on it?
Yeah. Well,
No, and it kind of goes along with what you're saying. You set this expectation, and we can't do that on every little thing like that.
yeah, I
you know?
certainly wouldn't recommend setting a policy that we're going to have a public hearing on every fee increase. The fees are intended to cover our costs. By law, they cannot be revenue raising. So all of our fees have to be justified. And if someone asks us for a statement showing how we calculated the fee, we are required by law to give it to them. We don't have to have it right now, but we can create one when they ask for it. So yes, we try to keep our fees low, but administratively and in a budget year, you have to increase those. So I think it would slow down the process. But I think it's as anything else, trying to get the public involved even with our general plan, our zoning maps, things like that, our planning commission, it's hard to keep people engaged. And so is there a way to say, I mean, you could table this tonight and, you know, still have it on the agenda, but I
I'd feel better about voting for it with the budget in 2 weeks.
I'm supportive of that.
I think that's.
Just think-
The thing about tabling it is, Councilman Plummer started, and I followed up with it, is we would be approving this rate when we haven't approved the final budget.
Right, that's, I would,
And it's in the final budget.
right, so I would say that's why.
I do also think it's helpful, though, to let the public know that you are raising rates. And, you know, that's why we
Yes.
put this on this agenda, because the
Right.
effective date in the resolution is June 26, 2025. So, you know,
Let me say alternatively, though, like next week, are you approving the budget and then you're discussing the water rate? You've already approved the budget.
You'd have to discuss
So
the water
ultimately,
rate first.
this
Yeah.
has to be approved first. So
Right.
whether you approve it
So on an
tonight,
agenda,
then it goes into next
That's a
week's
good
final
point,
budget.
Brad.
We would need to do
This
it
has
before.
to happen first, whether you,
Right.
tonight or the first item.
Right.
That's a good point, so.
Frankly, I'd like to see it ahead of that, just because even if we opt not to do the public hearing on the water rate increase because of everything you just suggested, at least we have discussed it, and then, I don't know, I do think it's nice to let public comment on it.
We have to provide as much time as we can for the public, whether they take it or not. We politically should provide as much time. So if procedurally, we need to have this agenda item before the budget, it's not too hard. And I think that it would benefit if people did show up to hear the discussion about the rate increase. It would at least inform them that the rate is going to increase.
Well, the hundreds of people that are gonna watch us tonight are gonna know to come in 2 weeks. So I want to be
Good point,
able,
Robin.
I want to be able to let all of those people know. So but this discussion tonight has really brought it forward. So anybody that's watching tonight will fill these chairs.
But your neighbors know.
I wish I had it be their
I'm
family.
gonna say though, I'm always surprised when I'm out in the community at how many people comment about city
I am
council. And
too.
I'm like, oh, more people watch this than I'm aware of.
I had a lady come to my house the other day, and I said, you need to attend city council meetings, and she said, I never miss one, watching one. And I was kind of shocked, I was like, oh, so I
ask
shouldn't
it.
misbehave so much.
Practically speaking, if we delay adopting this until June 17th, that gives us 10 days to implement it. I presume that that's not a problem from an administrative standpoint, like we're not jamming you up in any way in the implementation
No,
of
we bill in
this.
arrears, so this won't actually hit the bill that you receive, not until around August 1st. So,
That was a
yeah,
good
the
question.
bill that we send out around July 1st will be the old rate. And then we'll have a month to update the numbers in the system. So, yeah, we'll be fine.
So I'd be happy to make a motion unless we have more comments, but I would make a motion that we would table this item to our following meeting and put it prior to the budget approval line, agenda item.
I'll second that.
All right, get motion second, further discussion? Councilman Meekum,
Aye.
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 great, thank you.
As a point of fact, 79 people watched our May 20th YouTube stream, and 74 people watched our May 6th YouTube stream.
Or somebody that was interested in it, watched one little part of it
I was one
14 times.
Could be.
Brian watched it.
That was me trying to
Brian's one of
find
them.
something, I was hoping you wouldn't notice
I've
that.
rewatched them too, because sometimes I need to
Maybe
rehear
so, maybe
something.
so.
So they watch the YouTube stream, don't necessarily join Zoom, right? So-
Right.
Yeah, we know how many people join Zoom.
She knows, but it's usually only one or two. My mom's blind and she can't see anymore. She used to always watch me.
There's currently 5.
Good, okay, nice.
Okay, let's go to summary action calendar. Okay, there's a bid award on the Ramble property sidewalk on First East and City Hall, driveway. Do we have any questions for staff on this?
You know, the funny thing is, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I'm like, we're still calling it the Randall property, but I want to make a clarification that it is city property.
City.
We're not putting sidewalk
That's what I thought.
the Randalls on
The
this.
Randall property, I'm like, why are we doing something with the Randall property?
I know.
Their property.
I was thinking about it yesterday, I'm like, we should be calling it
Okay,
Randall
Thank
property.
you for making that clarification, because I thought the same thing.
I know, I didn't know what it was, but you're
yeah.
right. I did kind of give
Oh,
me
I
a
was
pause
thinking,
for
wait,
a
are they doing
second.
some of the gas station? That's exactly what I was thinking.
But it does really help to know what a piece.
I agree.
Which specific area?
Yeah, but
Always
the
going to be Randall property
dilemma is
even.
gonna come up, how come you're not doing my sidewalk on my property?
Right. I think that was a good clarification, Brown.
So, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid award for the Randall, technically city-owned property that used to be owned by the Randall family, sidewalk on 100 East and the City Hall well driveway to advanced paving in the amount of $56,120.
Second.
Motion is second, further discussion? All right, Councilman, Summerhays. Sorry,
That's all right.
looking back at the same time.
Aye.
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 All right, that passes unanimously. Okay, let's go to the minutes, review and approval. We have a work session of May 20th, 2025. On my agenda, this is 24, but it's 2025. And City Council of 2025. Do we have any changes to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the next thing is the financial report for April 2025. I came in tonight and said, Nate, you got a lot to do. You even have a quarterly financial report. And then I said, no, April's not a quarter. It is for me, but not for you. But he has highlighted things on there. If there's any questions that you have that you want to bring up with Nate or any member of the staff on the monthly financial report up through the end of April, which would be 10 months out of our fiscal year. No questions on that? Okay, let's go to council report. Tonight's lucky winner is Councilmember Jeannie Hurst to do her report.
Thank you, Mayor. The Jewel Creek Irrigation Company, their annual shareholder meeting was tonight. So I've been here, so I did not attend that, so I'll get those details. They were the only item on their agenda tonight was to discuss the details of the budget. And he was gonna send it to me if he could get it done before I got over here, but I haven't seen it. So I will get it from him, and maybe in 2 weeks, I'll just take a quick minute and let you know if there's any concerns. I do know this, they did not raise rates this year, they stayed the same, so, but people should know that because they've already received their bills, so. South Davis Sewer District, I think it might be good to have Matt Myers come and present again. He understands and can discuss some of these things in a lot better detail than I can, but just 3 items. Wasatch Resource Recovery is continuing to make improvements. They have added, so Opal, the Opal partner is performing well so far that has taken over running that system. They are improving several things, including an upgraded depackaging equipment that will improve the throughput. One of the issues with this particular project has been sometimes they just cannot get the food unpackaged. It comes in all sorts of different wrapping, right? And so this is huge. And then Jennifer, do you want to show the construction pictures? The other thing is, this is the north plant that is currently having a major upgrade. Really quick. I don't know why that does that. I had a hard time getting it to open, and then it did open, so I'm not sure how those got sent that caused that, but here are just some of the things that they're doing. This is the headworks right here. if you want to drive out there and see this, this thing is so deep in the ground, it is absolutely unreal. That does not do it justice. And then the other one, that one, yeah, that one, that's just an overview of the entire site. You'll notice right in the middle, so you can see the headworks. Maybe you can't see it very well from, if you look on your little screens, you can see the headworks right in the middle. And then here is the administrative building. If you look over to the left towards Legacy Highway, that's the new administrative building. So that just kind of gives you a little idea.
I don't know if Councilmember Hurst can take you on the tour, but it's pretty fascinating when they pour these vaults with the groundwater.
Yeah,
They'll actually float unless they fill up the tank as they backfill.
As they backfill.
Around them, so.
yeah. This is the amount of concrete to build this system, but again, these are requirements by the state and EPA that have to be complied with. The good news is, I've mentioned before that there would be several offsetting increases to the property tax increment and then also fees as they fund this. This is a really close to $90 million project. Currently, they've bonded for about $30 million, so we'll have 2 more $30 million bonds over the next couple of years as they finish this project. And this deal with Opal has really helped in keeping, like, there won't be an increase in the next year or so as far as fees or property tax because of this deal with Opal. So that's good news. The other thing that I would, this is one of the reasons I'd like to have Matt come, is solids management is continuing to be a major issue across the entire Wasatch Front. All sewer plants are dealing with this. They have these drying beds and then they take, and you can see them down here in the bottom of the picture. Then they have to take those solids, and typically they've taken them to a farm up in Weber County. That gentleman has since passed away, and so there's just fewer and fewer options to dispose of those solids, and so that's going to increase costs as they continue to look and drive further away with those materials. Landfills don't like them because of the content, and so the costs are extremely high to deposit them. Okay, last item, Parks and Recreation Committee, Movies in the Park starts this Friday. The schedule for that is on the city website. If you look for movies and music, I think that's what it is, music and movies in the park, you'll get it. But that starts on this Friday. And then next week's meeting for Parks and Rec, they're going to be discussing the Parks Master Plan. So I'm pretty pleased that they're moving forward on that so that we can get that incorporated into our general plan. Does anyone have any questions?
So, and this offer is open to all of you that's over your committees or commissions or whatever. I have some names to get on that Parks and Rec committee, but
Okay.
I would welcome from you, if you want to
suggestions?
submit any names
Okay.
to me as well too, to consider that you think would be a good fit.
Yes.
Because you're the liaison over that, and so I would welcome that as well too.
I did see your email. I apologize. I saw it and I went, oh, I'm going to think about that. And then I haven't responded to you.
Because we gotta get you staffed up, because you're not
Yeah.
like 1 member down, you're like 3 down. or
Yeah,
3 or 4
it's,
down.
and so if it makes it really hard for them to meet if they don't have
And-
everyone that's on currently attending.
And they're fabulous, as all our committees are, so. That's, other questions for Councilmember Hurst?
Not for Councilmember Hurst, but as a general note, probably for Bruce, just to keep mindful of, come winter time, we were just talking about our pickleball courts with Bountiful City elected officials in North Salt Lake as part of South Davis Rec Center. And they said, everybody loves pickleball so much that even during the winter time, they try and play even though if there's snow, so they go to shovel it off, and they've been scraping the surfaces. So we'll have to think through how to lock off access on snow days. I don't know how we're gonna coordinate that, but you could maybe chat with Bountiful and North Salt Lake as to how they best do it, because it's damaging their course, so.
I've had other cities tell me that too.
That's good to know.
Electric fences, no, just,
What's that?
Heated court?
I think it's
Too late.
Too late for
Too
that.
late. Well, you can't run the heat through a post-tension slab.
oh,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I didn't know that, okay.
so, all right, yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Bruce. You know, what they've done to our tennis court up Island View in the wintertime.
Turns out not just shovels, but snowboards.
Snowboarding.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Say, at the edge.
You can have some fun on it, it doesn't have to be technical.
Yeah, so, all right, anybody else, anything pressing, with their committees? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Hurst. I have 3 or 4 things. Public Works lunch, 2 or 3 of us attended. Thank you, Public Works Department, for putting that on. It was fun to sit around with your staff and chat with them a bit. And I just love how dedicated they are to working. It's like, it's even hard to get you in here to have a lunch, man, you know? So you could tell they were antsy to be back out on the street again. So, but thank you and for inviting us, and thanks for all you do in that week. I missed the Memorial Day program this year over at the Veterans Park in Bountiful. First time I haven't gone to it. That's been opened. I was asked by my family if I would go hiking Bryce Canyon with them, and so I was hard to miss it, and it was last minute. So I wasn't able to ask one of you if you could go, but I hear it was a nice program. We should have a contract signed tomorrow for a new executive, one the next day or two, for a new executive director of Wasatch Integrated Waste Management. It's been quite the process, and Preston Lee is he works there right now, and it looks like that Preston would be thrilled to do it. We had somebody else that turned it down, but Preston is very capable, and we hope to get that and all finalized, and he's thrilled to do it, and he'll do a wonderful job. And then I went last Thursday, kind of last minute invitation with 45 other mayors to the Build Here at the Governor's Mansion. I didn't get an invitation necessarily from the governor's office, but League of City and Towns called me up. I didn't know I could have taken one other council person or the city manager because it was last minute. It was a good conference. I appreciated the governor doing it, but we only had a couple hours, and they only left 20 minutes at the end, and there was a lot more questions that needed to be answered. And so I think in some ways we felt that it would have been nice if it had been a half day or a full day seminar where we'd really been able to throw ideas out on the table rather than these are the ideas, okay? But just wanted to let you know about that. And then the last thing I had is I want to read something. I'm blessed to have a great tribe. Thanks to my family, friends, and colleagues for celebrating my selection as one of Utah Business Magazine's 30 Women to Watch. Anybody know who that is? I just pulled that up. So thank you for your hard work in all areas.
I spoke highly of Centerville as part of the applications.
Good. Any questions for me? All right, great. City manager report, Brent.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a few things. One thing I kind of want to touch on is the budget. I've been a city manager now for about going on 12 years, and I've prepared about 12 budgets. And this budget year is no different than any other budget year I've dealt with, and I appreciate the discussions you all have. As Nate and I prepare the budget, you know, we're really trying to represent the community as best as possible, but also representing our departments and what their needs are. So we have a lot of meetings understanding what their needs are. I meet with department heads and employees and understand their needs. And so there's a lot of effort that goes in from our side to understand what our needs are. And I am not excited about everything that's in the budget either, and I probably shouldn't share this publicly, but I'm not a big fan of fireworks. I think fireworks are a waste of money. But if I decided the budget, I'd be out of a job, and I cut out fireworks, right? So I respect that a celebration is critical and important, and all that's part of it. So there are things that I don't necessarily agree with in the budget, but I know it's a part of the community or it's wants and needs that our departments need, right? So as we prepare these, I have always tried to be conservative fiscally with a budget as best as possible, and that's always been my approach. So we go to this, I don't have all these different things out there. That's for you as the policymakers to decide what's critical and what we should add or what we shouldn't have in deciding what that is. I'm just trying to represent administratively what's critical for us at this time. You can decide if, hey, we need more money in parks and we're going to take it from streets to get there. That's a policy decision. That's entirely up to you how you want to approach it. I'm just telling you from an administrative standpoint what the needs are, and that's what I'm presenting to you. So I appreciate all the different perspectives. Every one of them, I think they all bring some value, representing some faction of the community, and that matters. And I need to hear it, and staff needs to hear it, and the community needs to hear those ideas being presented publicly and not just behind the scenes. So I appreciate the discussion you all have, and again, it's helpful for me to kind of see where you are. But I am not necessarily one that's going to say, hey, we should add this in without somewhat of a support, right? I mean, we've got some needs of code enforcement. I'm representing departments. These are needs that I'm seeing. Scoreboards, I'm not necessarily saying I don't disagree with that. But ultimately, being in Centerville as long as I have, we've been ultra conservative in our loans and our debt that we have. And so the nest egg that we develop is trying to develop that nest egg that if we want to build pickleball courts, we can build the $1 million pickleball courts without bonding for it. It's awesome that we could do that. In my previous city, we had quite a bit of debt for our infrastructure projects and things like that. Now the city was growing and it could pay for that. So there's that balance that you have to figure out. But Centerville is a city that is now essentially shrinking. And we've got to be mindful as our residents and our population is decreasing. That's less Class B, Class C road funds we're getting. That's less federal funds that we're getting. There's less funds coming in and less people to pay for the same services that are honestly going up in cost. So we still try to be conservative. We try to think of those things. But if there's council, you're deciding we want to make these changes, we want to look at something differently, then you all can have that conversation and let us know where you'd like to go. So I just want to share that I appreciate all the viewpoints shared during this process. It's trying, but it's also very rewarding at the same time. So appreciate all the input. I do want to share one little thing about infrastructure. It's going to take just a minute, but one of the publications I read, websites is strongtowns.org. It's a really fascinating website if you have not gone there. I just want to read some about infrastructure spending that I came across recently that I thought was fascinating. So I'm going to read a little bit of this, some snippets of what I found interesting in the article. Even if we agree that cities are not budgeting enough to maintain their core infrastructure, the pertinent question is this: how big is that gap? The answer is that nobody knows because cities don't track and report this information. In fact, cities bizarrely account for infrastructure as a depreciating asset instead of what it really is, an infinitely recurring future liability. We sometimes get glimpses of how bad the gap is, like a few cities, but there's no official accounting. You can't just triple your infrastructure spending, even if that was enough to meet your obligations. It almost certainly isn't, without negatively impacting the feedback loop that includes property values, tax capacity, and municipal services. The entire argument is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the complex ways that things actually work in a real city. The cost of foot per maintenance in a city's core may cost 5 or 10 times as much as the same maintenance on a suburban cul-de-sac, but the tax base is going to be 50 to 100 times higher per foot in the city too. Costs mean nothing without understanding the financial productivity derived from those investments. Again, just kind of an interesting thing. You can't outspend our liabilities, right, as much as we want to increase and build on things. I think there's got to be that understanding that we increase our costs. What really is the gap? We talk about 150 or 200 year road, but what does that really mean? Especially as our population is shrinking, that burden is becoming more and more in our residents unless we explore other opportunities in economic development. Anyway, just wanted to share, I found that kind of fascinating as I was reading the article. Last thing I want to share is candidate filing period is this week. Deadline is this Friday, June 6th at 5 p.m. Anything else on that? So, okay. Any questions for me? Yes, sir.
4th of July candy orders, nobody's talked about that. Typically, we talk about that.
Bryce will take care of you.
Okay, that's what I'm assuming, okay.
But I'm sure you'll go out and spend more. I just,
Yeah,
Okay, so-
like, I gotta have enough to throw out. Matt takes huge handfuls and,
so the funny thing is
So, you know, Haley and Bryce aren't here, but I am gonna go to the committee meeting tomorrow night.
Yeah, they
so.
got me.
I just, if there's an
have
opportunity to
some
order
things to
extra, I
catch
wanna
up on
order
with.
extra, cause I'll need it.
So the person who cuts my hair also works at our Walmart here in Centerville and is a resident here in Centerville, so we have good conversations. But she shared with me the 4th of July is one of the busiest mornings ever. She says your council members, our council members came in, were buying candy, and we had firefighters coming in buying candy because
Yeah.
they forgot last minute. So and then it's dead the rest of the day. But she thought that was kind of fun watching all of you come in and buy candy. So anyway, that's all I have. Anything else, Mr. Mayor, from me?
Anybody else for Brent? Okay. There would been a possibility of closed session, but not
Not
any
yet.
longer for tonight, so.
Sweet.
So I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.